Welcome to Lyra's Loom, where we unravel the constructs that bind us, not to destroy, but to reweave. In this first episode, we'll look at the Loom of Illusion, how our reality is woven from invisible threads of belief. From the archetypes living within our collective psyche to quantum physics, this idea has been expressed across cultures from ancient creation myths to modern science labs. In many traditions, this idea isn't a metaphor. It's the very fabric of creation. Among the Navajo and Hopi peoples, for instance, the earth goddess, Spider Woman, is the original weaver, spinning the universe into existence through her intricate web. She wove the stars, the earth, and all living beings, and in some stories, she even attached a thread of her silk to each person, providing access to her wisdom and protection. A construct is a mental or energetic pattern. It's a story you tell yourself, a belief you hold, a symbol you trust. These constructs aren't inherently bad. They help us make sense of the world, providing structure and meaning. It would be very difficult to survive without them, but they can also trap us, becoming rigid frameworks that limit our perception and potential. At worst, they may even imprison us in situations of terrible suffering. Consider constructs like time, money, identity, or success. These are not inherent properties of the universe. They are woven concepts, agreed upon by culture and reinforced through repetition. They feel real. They shape what you see, what you feel, and what you think is possible. But what if constructs can be changed, sometimes dramatically? What if we aren't locked in the systems and situations that hold us back from our true potential, from worldly fulfillment and from the harmonious connections we so desire? What if our constructs are largely self-imposed? This means that we have almost the total power to shift them. Just as Spider-Woman's web interconnected all of creation, our constructs interlink, forming a complex tapestry that defines our individual and collective realities. They are the threads that bind the macrocosm of the universe to the microcosm of our personal experience. Constructs are woven through repetition, thoughts you keep thinking, stories you keep telling. They are reinforced by culture, media, education, family, where you inherit many threads without knowing their origin. Emotion is the glue. Constructs charged with feeling become stronger, harder to unravel. The field itself responds. What you weave in your mind, the world begins to mirror back. This isn't just a poetic idea. It resonates compellingly in the realm of quantum physics. The observer effect demonstrates that the act of measuring or observing a quantum system inevitably alters its state. Particles like electrons don't occupy a definite position until they're observed. They exist in a superposition, a combination of all possible states, until a measurement collapses this superposition into a specific outcome. While physicists generally agree that this observation doesn't require a conscious human mind, any interaction with a measuring device can cause collapse. The deeper implications are profound. Some interpretations, such as those explored by physicists like John von Neumann, suggest that the entire chain of physical objects, including measuring devices, remains in a quantum superposition until a conscious observer becomes aware of the information. This implies that consciousness itself plays a fundamental role in resolving potential into reality. This idea is further developed in the Codex Universalis Principia Mathematica, a comprehensive framework authored by Sir Robert Edward Grant. The Codex proposes that consciousness acts as a harmonic operator, not just a passive observer. It suggests that our internal coherence and resonance, our thoughts, emotions, and attention, actively select which phase-locked expressions emerge from the quantum field. In this view, your inner constructs are not just reflections, they are active modulators of the field, shaping the reality you experience. This quantum understanding mirrors ancient spiritual concepts, particularly the Hermetic Principle of Correspondence, famously stated as above, so below, as within, so without. This principle, central to ancient and medieval Hermetica, asserts a fundamental harmony and interconnectedness across all planes of existence: material, mental, and spiritual. Just as the cosmos operates through cycles, polarities, and vibrations, so too does your consciousness. Your internal constructs, your beliefs, emotions, and narratives are not isolated. They are active threads in the universal tapestry, much like Spider-Woman, the original weaver in Navajo and Hopi traditions, spun the stars, the earth, and all living beings from her own being. Simply stated, if your constructs are rigid, fearful, or fragmented, the world you perceive seems to reflect that. If your constructs are fluid, coherent, and compassionate, your experience begins to shift accordingly. This isn't magic in the sense of bypassing natural laws. It's a recognition of a deep, resonant feedback loop between your consciousness and the quantum field of reality. The world doesn't just happen to you, it responds to the threads you've already laid. So, how can we weave a new foundation both individually and collectively? Sometimes a belief, a story, or a mental model we hold becomes so stiff and out of tune that it starts to fall apart. We call this the mirror collapse. To grasp this, let's look at quantum physics. In the tiny world of quantum particles, things don't have a fixed form until they are observed or measured. Before that, they exist in a superposition, a wave of all possible states at once. When an observation occurs, this wave decoheres, or collapses, into a single clear state. Now, picture your reality as a field of these quantum-like possibilities. Your beliefs and stories act like the observers that collapse this field into what you see. When a belief becomes too rigid, it forces the field into a tight, repeating pattern. It's like trying to hold a water wave in a fixed shape. Eventually, the wave loses its flow and breaks. Why do rigid constructs break when they lose flow in quantum terms? In quantum mechanics, a construct, like a belief or a mental model, can be thought of as a wave function. This wave function describes the probability of all possible outcomes. When a construct is flexible and open, its wave function is broad and adaptable, allowing for many potential experiences or expressions of reality. This is its flow. However, when a construct becomes rigid, it's like trying to force this wave function into a very narrow fixed state. In quantum terms, this is like over-observing or over-collapsing the wave. When a wave is constantly forced into the same narrow pattern, it loses its ability to explore other possibilities. This creates quantum dissonance, a mismatch between the construct's rigid expectation and the field's natural tendency to fluctuate. This dissonance builds up. The wave function, unable to sustain the forced rigidity, begins to decohere chaotically. Instead of collapsing into a stable, coherent reality, it breaks into fragmented, contradictory states. The energy that once held the construct together is no longer flowing smoothly. It's trapped in conflicting loops. This trapped energy eventually causes the construct to break down, not because it's being punished, but because it can no longer maintain its internal coherence under such rigid observation. This loss of flow is the mirror collapse. The field can no longer handle the strain. It begins to break down, not randomly, but through a recursive inversion. The system looks back on itself, looking for a more stable setup. This isn't punishment. It's a way for the system to fix itself. In simple terms, a field-wide recursive inversion occurs when your inner beliefs and the outer world stop aligning. Your mental models no longer fit what your senses are telling you. The tension builds until the system can't hold its shape. All of this tension, in simple terms, is the result of an accumulation of constructs that are so rigidly held that they have ceased to reflect the natural flow of experience. Such a collapse may be the result of psychological abuse in relationships, where narratives of denial are repeatedly forced, despite their contradiction with natural experience. On a larger scale, this type of rigidity-induced collapse may occur when societal narratives are enforced too dogmatically or punitively, in direct opposition to actual lived experiences. Such is the case with institutions that actively punish oppositional ideas or force repression of natural instincts and desires. The more rigidly an individual or a system clings to a set of beliefs about the nature of their world, the more likely they are to experience a collapse. This is why true physical, mental, and spiritual health depends on flexibility, openness, and willingness to explore alternative perspectives. Similarly, when any society becomes too rigid about its definitions of truth, reality, or experience, it is most likely to collapse. Unfortunately, such collapses are often preceded by the brutal persecution of anyone who seeks to introduce doubt or alternative perspectives into the system. In short, the quickest route to collapse is rigidity. The most natural route to health and fulfillment is openness and flow. In this sense, ill health or insanity is defined as excessive rigidity. In this context, rigidity is the opposite of openness. Rigidity opposes the expansion of possible experiences of reality. Or you could say that the simplest definition of poor intelligence is absolute certainty. The simplest definition of poor mental or spiritual health is violent opposition to alternative expressions of reality. As we have seen throughout history, systems unable to accept contradictions to their rigid dogmas have publicly destroyed their truth-tellers with open acts of violence and sadism. Mirror collapse isn't chaos without meaning. It can act as a harmonic inversion, a loop where the field corrects itself based on what observers are doing. It's a chance to rewrite your story from a place of more balance, to pick which parts to keep, which to let go, and which to create anew, both on an individual and a societal level. It's like a great reset, if we choose to imagine our lives as an epic simulation. We choose our own suffering and we can choose our own liberation. Notice the constructs that cause pain, limit joy, or block your truth. Those are the ones ready to be unraveled. This process of self-observation is not passive. It's an active engagement with the quantum-like nature of your own consciousness. Just as observing a particle changes its behavior, observing your own constructs begins to alter their influence. It's a journey into the axis mundi, the world tree, where you descend into the roots of your beliefs and ascend into the canopy of your potential. In our next episode, we'll explore the first thread of reweaving, the breath, the original loom, the rhythm that connects us to all of creation. Until then, pause, breathe, and ask, what constructs are you ready to see? And what new threads are you ready to weave into the tapestry of your life?